My name is Tom Tillotson. I'm the town moderator, who is the person who is in charge of running elections here. I've lived here for, I guess it's going on 50 years this year.
We just came up here to Dixville Notch, about 3 hours north of Manchester, New Hampshire, to come to the Balsams Resort, which is where the midnight voting tradition would happen starting in 1960 right here in Dixville. In its peak, hundreds of employees of the resort as well as observers would come in to observe this midnight vote happen, which originally started with 9 voters, 9 residents in the town that would come to vote at midnight. This tradition has carried on since 1960, but almost didn't happen this time around. They just narrowly hit the threshold, the minimum requirement of 5 residents to hold the midnight vote that are eligible to vote here in Dixville for this 2020 primary cycle. We came here to meet with those residents and understand what's so special about this midnight voting tradition here in Dixville Notch.
In the news this morning, first, of course, New Hampshire, where 250,000 voters are going to the polls on this presidential primary day. Residents of the tiny town of Dixville Notch up near the Canadian border cast their ballots just after midnight.
My name is Leslie Otten, and I've lived within 45 miles of this spot since 1972. I'm a resident of Dixville, along with 4 other folks, and I'm going to help host the first in the nation voting.
Behind me is the Hale House, where Dixville Notch's 5 residents will come to vote in the 2020 First in the Nation primary at midnight. This almost didn't happen. In 2016, after the election, the Attorney General of New Hampshire investigated Dixville Notch to make sure that every resident who voted was actually a resident who lived here. The town here is quite serious about keeping their midnight tradition alive.
Dad was he bought the hotel in 1954. The hotel's gone through a lot of evolutions over that period of time, but one of the things that he evolved was the midnight voting. It wasn't in time for the primary in 1960, but it was in time for the general election. That's how Dixville voting started, and so this will be 60 years.
I did vote here in 2016, and it was important for me to, before making the commitment to be here, this is something I was thinking about and working on. I didn't recognize and understand until Tom called me and said, dude, you're going to have to do it because we're down to 4.
It's kind of like the starting gun for the voting process for picking our presidents. There's an iconic photo that everybody takes at the stroke of midnight of the first voter dropping his ballot into the ballot box. Here's a little town stuck in the middle of nowhere where everybody in town, there's only 5 of us this election, but it's been up to mid-30s. Everybody gets up at midnight and they come and they vote 100%. That this country continues to have a problem with voter turnout. Maybe it'll be higher this year because things are so divided, but who knows? The fact of the matter is, if everybody got out to vote, we'd have a much better process.
Imagine the results that we would have. Imagine how our country would be governed if all of us participated.
Until the last election, no one became president without winning their party's primary vote in Dixville. Now, Trump did not win the vote here in Dixville, so we broke that tradition in 16. Of course, he broke a lot of traditions in 16. I come over here, and look at the photos, and it's like a trip down memory lane. The relationship with the Bushes, both Bushes, is a special memory. John McCain came here a lot. He got to be quite good friends with my dad. Spent a fair amount of time with him. This is how the presidential process used to be, where candidates really were candidates. They came out, they shook hands, and now it's all been replaced by television, pretty much. I remember miscounting the vote in front of millions of people because we count the vote in public. So there's a ballot, and we say the name, and we'll do a check mark and stuff like that. And a reporter that was filming it said, "Didn't you miscount?" I don't know, maybe. And so we went back over it. Yep, we did. We had miscounted the vote. Will it happen again in 2024? the hotel development goes on, we may be too big to do it. There's a physical, practical limit. Too little or too many, you can't do it. If we still have that sweet spot in the middle, hopefully we can do it again.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.